Hello, this is Bill Steffen. Thanks for coming on board. I was looking at the calendar and I noted that today would be the 75th anniversary for my parents, the day they got married back on July the 8th in 1950. And I came along exactly 10 months later. But Dad was in the Army Air Corps for about 5.5 years. And so he didn't get married until he was in his mid 30s. My mother was in her low 30s at the time, but they had a great marriage and lived a long time. Dad was 5 days shy of 91 when he passed away. And my mother, of course, lived to be about 100 and a half. And she was very healthy all the way until the end. All right, let's take a look at weather for a little bit and show where the storms are going to be. Anywhere you see the light green color, that's where there's a possibility of a thunderstorm. The dark green is a level 1 risk, and that is a marginal risk. And then level 2 is slight risk. And you can see a couple of slight risk areas there, one down toward Oklahoma, and another one on the East Coast where we still have the remnants of Tropical Storm Chantel, which is moving its way up the East Coast. Thunderstorm is certainly possible, places like Philadelphia and New York City. You can see not much going on here in the state of Michigan, especially southeast of Grand Rapids. I can't totally rule out a shower, thunder shower, but most of us will see dry conditions here for a good portion of the day. And then we move ahead to Wednesday, and pretty much the same story. We've got two areas of potential severe weather, but they're just marginal outlooks. One is out in the Plain States from northwest Kansas up into Canada, and the other one again on the East Coast where there's some residual moisture, and there could be a spotty report of some strong winds and thunderstorms there. Again, nothing much goes on here in the state of Michigan. There's a lot of places here in Michigan that could use some rain at this point in time. All right, let's take a look at how much rain's going to fall. You can see you can kind of divide the country in half. Off to the right, we've got where the rain's going to fall, and a good soaking is likely from the remains of Chantel from northern Virginia up toward New York City. Everybody kind of gets some rain. The area that doesn't get a lot of rain is West Michigan. You can see that, and if we kind of zoom in to the West Michigan area here, you'll be able to see that we've got really not much of rain at all, maybe a couple hundredths of an inch in Grand Rapids. Hopefully we can eke out more than that. But once again, which has been the theme here for the past couple of weeks, there'll be more rain south of us and especially west of us in Wisconsin than there will be around here. We're going to take time out to thank our sponsors. We'll be right back to talk about what's ahead the rest of the week.
Complete Care Concierge has you covered. They are the fast, efficient, and affordable cleaning service serving all of West Michigan. Don't ask your family to clean your house. They'll only do it wrong. Hire the professionals. Complete Care Concierge, 616-264-1397.
When your home needs help, you might not know where to start. Why not ask Ace? We're always here to help with Ace Handyman Services. Our talented craftsmen handle everything from drywall and carpentry to doors and kitchens. We're the neighbors you trust to get the job done right. Let's get started. Book your handyman appointment today. Ace Handyman Services, bringing helpful to your home.
Ace is the place with the helpful hardware, folks.
Well, look at the climate data for today, July the 8th. Sunrise time at 6:12 in Grand Rapids, sunset at 9:22. And we've lost about 11 minutes of daylight now. The sun's starting to work its way back, but very slowly here during the month of July. Average high and low, 83 and 62, and it pretty much holds there through the entire month of July. Record high temperature for today, way back in 1936, was 101 degrees. Wow. And the record low temperature, 46, and that was in 1984. High temperatures here on Monday, only 81 for Grand Rapids. So that was the coolest day we've had in over a week. 80 for Kalamazoo. Once again, temperatures were a little cooler down toward Battle Creek, where they're still evaporating a little bit of water down there. Big Rapids just 75. Very pleasant temperatures at Lake Michigan. 72 was the high at the Muskegon Beach, but the high at the Muskegon Pier, that's out at the end by where the light is out there. 69 degrees was the high there. So there's a 3-degree difference between the beach and walking out to the end of the pier. And tropical outlook kind of interesting here. We've got Chantel, which is not a tropical storm anymore. It's just kind of a bunch of rain. And it's located in southern New Jersey, and it's drifting up toward New York, and it will eventually turn to the right and head out to sea what's left of it. But just kind of making for a rainy, kind of gloomy day on the East Coast for some of the big cities out there. And then on the right side, the Eastern Pacific, we were going to have, it was really kind of interesting because they kept increasing the odds of tropical storm Gil developing. And it looks like it's not going to develop. And now we just have a 10% chance in that area that there'll be a tropical storm. So for any of you with interest down in Mexico, they're looking pretty good. They've had a fair amount of rain. Temperature's been about a degree cooler than average across Mexico so far this summer. But they're expecting some pretty good crops in the agricultural areas of Mexico, especially those areas that are in the hill areas to the south of the United States. Okay, we take a look at the Pacific, and again, you can look at those areas that are seeing lots of sunshine. Most of Australia had another beautiful sunny day. Most of Africa was sunny. There looks like there was one big thunderstorm there, just a little bit north of Lake Victoria. Saudi Arabia seeing sunshine, much of the Middle East there, and there's still that monsoon, the cloud cover going on in India and in Pakistan. And like I said, they appreciate that. Indochina, they're seeing more clouds than not. They appreciate that. Makes things slightly cooler there. All right, so we'll take a look at our headlines. Partly to mostly sunny for the day today. There is a very slight chance of a shower, thunder shower during the day, but it's only a slight chance. High temperatures will be in the mid-80s, a couple degrees warmer than it was yesterday, but a little cooler than the trend has been here through late June and early July. We'll have a little bit better chance of a shower or storm here Tuesday night into the day on Wednesday. All right, the lake forecast, southwest to west winds at 5 to 10 knots. Waves should be running only 6 inches to a foot, so a pretty nice day out there. Water temperatures with the north wind and the cooler air have cooled off just a touch. Ludington was down a couple degrees to 68. We've still got 75 out at the buoy at South Haven. And Reed's Lake is hanging in there, 83 degrees. Nice weather for anybody swimming in those inland lakes here. The outlook here for the day calls for temperatures to peak in the mid-80s. Again, probably a couple degrees cooler in Battle Creek. And it will be a touch cooler at the lake where the wind will still be coming from the northwest off the lake here much of the day. Only a 20% chance of a shower or thunder shower, and humidity should fall to around 50% here during the afternoon. Taking a look at the high temperatures for the day today, 85 for Grand Rapids, pleasant 81 for South Haven, a degree or two cooler for Kalamazoo, Three Rivers. Ludington makes it to 81 today. Traverse City at pleasant 79 before the wind turns north off the bay. And they should see a nice day up there as well. Taking a look at the days for the temperatures here for the day on Wednesday. We'll be seeing cool temperatures up across the UP once again, 60s along the Lake Superior shoreline. For us, 83 in Grand Rapids, 78 in South Haven. Pleasant weather expected temperature-wise here. Pleasant summer conditions here for the next several days or so. Here's the way it looks. You can see the percent chance of rain, about 40 to 50% here for Wednesday. That's a little bit higher chance than the rest of the days. Somewhere in there, I hope I get a shower. You know, at my house here, I've had a little over an inch of rain since May 30th. So I'm really hurting here. We really could use some rain. Temperatures mainly mid-80s. Will be kicking on the door of 90 here on Friday. So if you're looking for a really hot day, that's the hot day. And then about a 50-50 chance of a shower or thunderstorm on Saturday. If you got an open house or a wedding or something like that, not going to be an all-day rain, but do keep in mind that there could be a brief period of rain, maybe a little lightning with that during the day on Saturday. And the long-range outlook calls for temperatures here to once again be a little bit above average. That's been the case here right on through the month of June into July. And this Prague has done a pretty good job at picking up on that across much of the country and picking up on the below average temperatures out in the desert areas where they've had a bit more cloud cover and some of that moisture from the tropical storms off the coast of Mexico. Rainfall for the period, that's July 15th through the 21st, near normal here in West Michigan. And that's an average, okay? If it rains 7 inches in Battle Creek and 1 inch at my house, that adds up to 8. You divide the 8 by 2, you get 4. And so that's kind of a good average across the area. So that's the model there can be correct and still have a lot of variation with it. Hey, what's new in Alabama?
You know, I remember when we started this show, the sunshines and the lightning bolts were aspirational.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
now
true.
mid-80s every day.
By the way, I should mention that I was on the radio today. I joined Justin Barkley, and we talked for about 20 minutes about the floods down in Texas. I do want to emphasize there's a lot of speculation going on, but the thing to note is that there was a flash flood watch, then a flash flood warning, then a flash flood emergency warning, all issued down there. Unfortunately, it was the middle of the night, and I think we have to work on. I think the Weather Service did a very good job with this, and I think the criticism of them is unwarranted. They had normally they have 2 people scheduled to do this at the Weather Service at Austin, San Antonio, which is responsible for the Kerr Valley, and they had 3 extra people called in, so they had 5 people on duty monitoring the situation. I think they have to think about putting in more sirens. They have to think about getting alerts out to people so that people have NOAA weather radios and they can get emergency messages on their cell phone with that. Have you ever heard a tornado warning on a cell phone? We heard that for the first time several years ago up in when we were up in northern Michigan, and wow, it was loud. So yeah, I think that's something that they will have to consider there. But we've had floods before. I mean, the ultimate example was Katrina, the hurricane that hit New Orleans. There were 1,836 fatalities, most of them due to flooding. And we knew 2 days in advance where that hurricane was going, that it was coming up into New Orleans. So it was a matter of getting people out of flood-prone areas and up into places that weren't going to experience that flooding.
I was in law school when Katrina happened, and we had students that were displaced from the New Orleans law schools.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah. I remember a picture of the football field at Tulane that was under like 8 feet of water. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that would make for kind of an interesting game. You know?
I think Tulane was where they were from. They were allowed to pick up at any accredited law school in the country that was participating. And a couple came to us, but they went all over the country. And some ended up going back to Tulane, and some finished at the universities that they transferred to.
Mm-hmm. I looked at the levee system. I walked the levee system a couple of years before Katrina, and you could see that there were definitely some weak spots there in the system that they had.
All right, let's see what else we've got to talk about today. This First Lady passed away on July 8, 2011. She was First Lady of the United States from 1974 to 1977 and Second Lady of the United States from 1973 to 74.
And that would be Betty Ford, I bet, from Grand Rapids. Actually, she was born in Chicago, but grew up here and met Jerry and had a nice life up here.
And is buried at the museum, right?
Yes.
On July 8, 1951, this European capital celebrated its 2000th birthday. Several songs mention the city, including The Last Time I Saw,
Paris,
and April in
Paris.
Its iconic landmark cathedral caught fire and suffered significant damage on April 15, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And we were able to go there and see it before that was the case.
How many times have you been to Paris?
Twice. Once we took the kids, and then another time we flew into Zurich and took a train to Paris and then flew out from there.
You know what? I've been to Paris too. I've been to Paris, Michigan.
Mm-hmm. Well, sometime
in Paris is
sometime we can go.
That's on. I think Paris, Michigan is on M37 up near Baldwin or something like that. You go through little tiny town of Paris.
There's some replicas of the Eiffel Tower in the U.S. There's one in Tennessee. There's one in Texas.
There's one in Illinois. No, wait a minute. That's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. There's one in the Chicago area. There's a Leaning Tower of Pisa, which is about half normal size.
Next to a YMCA.
Yeah, and of course we saw the one in Las Vegas.
Yep, that's one too. Mm-hmm.
Neat, yeah. Las Vegas was amazing. It really was.
July 8, 1938 was the last person executed in Michigan. And Michigan had banned capital punishment for most crimes many years before this happened. However, the problem with the bank robberies was that people were committing their offenses and skipping town, which made prosecuting them difficult because of jurisdictional issues. So there was a federal bank robbery act, and that's what these people were prosecuted under. And there was the robbery, and they planned it at a time that Dow Chemical was meeting their payroll so that the bank would have a lot of money. There was a shootout. One of the co-conspirators was shot, and then an innocent person was shot and killed as well. So this person was tried and convicted under the federal law, and they were the last person to be executed in Michigan in 1938.
That's a long time ago.
Mhm.
You can still get the death penalty, I think, for doing a crime on federal property or something like that here in Michigan.
Yeah, and that's what the issue was for this one too, is that it was a federal offense.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, and yeah, oh, look at this. I
On a
love.
lighter note,
I have blueberries in the refrigerator that look just like that right now. I love
so
blueberries. I really
when
do.
we were kids, twice a year we'd go down to Chicago to visit. Both sets of grandparents lived in the Chicago area. And in
Mhm.
the summer, we would stop off at this blueberry stand and get, I don't know how many blueberries, too many. And mom and dad would just hand us a box in the back seat. And it was just a free for all of us just eating as many blueberries as we possibly could the rest of the way to Chicago. And everyone was having so much fun. It was so great.
Yeah. What was the name of that place? Like the Big Dutchman or something like that? There was a pretty good farm market, which was farm stand, which was on the west side of 13 or west side of Interstate 196 around South Haven. And they
Mhm.
had ice cream there too during the summer.
In the summer, we'd stop and get blueberries for the drive, and if it was the winter, we would go to Kmart and get those invisible ink books. That
Hmm.
they still have those.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we did. But yeah, summer blueberries on the way to Chicago.
Oh, I love those trips. I really did. I look forward to seeing my parents and my brother and everybody getting together with their guitars and their harmonicas and everything and singing at Christmas time and everything. Okay, there's a question here.
There is a question.
Hmm.
According to the 2022 U.S. Agriculture Census, Michigan is fourth for blueberry production. Who are the first three states?
Wow, now that's a good question because you could go in two different directions. You could go to warm places like California or Florida, or you could go to places where there are a lot of blueberries, like the state of Maine.
I don't remember the answer exactly, but it does go in two different directions.
Oh, okay. Well, I know Maine is a fairly big state and they have blueberries. I remember picking wild blueberries up in Upper Michigan, up in the UP a couple of times, and that was kind of neat. I don't know. I'll guess Maine and California.
Close.
Oh,
Washington, Oregon,
Washington,
and
Oregon,
Georgia.
Georgia. Okay. Georgia has blueberries. I never associated Georgia with blueberries. Washington is the number one state for apples. I think they're irrigated with water out of the Columbia River. And Oregon, yeah, I can see that too. The climate there would be good for that. I love Michigan blueberries, though. They're really good. Like I said, we have a little carton just exactly like that in the refrigerator at the current time.
Would have to say my favorite summer berry, though, is the black raspberry.
Because you could pick them, and you could pick them in the field behind our house until they built the houses back there.
Yeah, we had wild ones behind our house for years, and I would, in the summer, I'd pick them for 2 weeks straight when they were in season and freeze them, and they would last me all winter.
Yeah, I put them on ice cream.
Hmm.
They were great. They really were. Black raspberries.
Yeah, I found a farm that had them in Benzie when I was there, and I picked them a couple summers there too.
Okay, that's kind of neat. Yeah.
And
Ooh,
there's you. It's also National Ice Cream Sundae Day.
no
I mean,
kidding.
every day should be National Ice Cream Sundae Day, but I guess today it's official according to the calendar people. And
Well,
there you
no.
are eating an ice cream sundae. Do you know where that is?
Where what again was again?
Where do you remember where you were? for
Oh,
this photo?
where this was. Ooh, let's see. Was that
I'll
was
give you
that
a
in
hint.
London? Was
Yes,
that
you look
was
happy
that
and
in
jet
London?
lagged. Yes, that was on the way home from London.
Oh, okay. That was at the Admirals Club, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Neat.
We were pre-gaming the flight home. So what are your favorite ice cream toppings?
Toppings. I just had some ice cream the other day with maple syrup, Michigan maple syrup on it, and that was really good.
That sounds
Uh,
good.
but yeah, I like fruit, strawberries, blackberries, blueberries.
So if you care to comment, today's question is what are your favorite ice cream toppings? So let us know in the comments.
Neat.
And I couldn't talk about London without this picture.
And that's a corded phone in a booth, and that is a typical London phone booth.
Hmm.
Many of them are not operative anymore, but that was kind
But
of
they
fun.
are for tourist photos. And that pane was missing from that window, so that let us get a good picture.
That's true. You can tell the pane's missing there. All you need is like Arthur Treacher or somebody like that to be poking his nose out from the phone.
So my pro tip for doing a trip to London is to take the blue line as far east as you care to, and then start walking back along the blue line. Because then when someone gets tired, well, first of all, it goes through Piccadilly Circus. And then as soon as someone gets tired, it's easy enough just to hop back on the blue line and get back to wherever your hotel is. So that's a nice, easy way to see the city that you're not going to be out longer than anybody wants to. And it's all covered on public transportation.
Can you explain what a circus is? Because people are thinking that there's a guy walking a high wire and there's a lion tamer or something like that. What's a circus?
Oh, it's just a circle. It's a giant roundabout.
Yeah, a giant roundabout. Yeah, neat. So we call them roundabouts. They call them lifts instead of elevators, and lorries instead of trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And here you are again.
Yes, and that was down by the Thames River.
Always dressed for the weather.
Yep, and it was, you wore a sweater because that was sweater type weather, and it was a typical London gray day there, but very comfortable weather-wise, and the wind wasn't terribly strong, and we took a little boat ride, and it was fun.
And you've actually been to London twice.
I have.
We bounced through there on our flight home from Tel Aviv. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, never
the
thought
best phone call I've ever placed to my sister was to call her and tell her I was taking mom and dad to Israel tomorrow and she needed to help with the cats.
And she went, what?
Because we were trying to do your 50 states. So we were going to go to North Dakota, but then a storm happened. So all the seats into North Dakota were full for a couple of days. We couldn't get there, but we could still get out of Grand Rapids. Okay. So looking at what was available, Tel Aviv was open. And I said, I wish I were that brave. We should go. And you said, why can't we?
Yeah.
Why can't we go to Tel Aviv 12 hours from now? I guess. So we all jumped in the car to get to Best Buy while we're like internet searching for whatever kind of charger we're going to need to fly to Tel Aviv the next day. And we did. And then my mom said she was the only one who hadn't been to Europe. So we worked out to stop through London on the way home.
Yeah, that was such a fun trip. It really was. And the weather was perfect. You know, the weather's been great for all of our trips. It really has. We've been very, very lucky.
Mm-hmm. Or even if the weather's not good, you just wait it out. We got rain one day in Germany and we just had a really, really long lunch and it was fine.
Well, I remember going to the cathedral there in London, and where they have all the dead people buried, and these famous people are buried there.
Yeah, crypts in old cathedrals are really cool.
Yeah, old admirals and whatnot. Really, and the old buildings. I mean, you see a building like a 4-story building that's, you know, apartments and whatnot, and it's got like 12 smokestacks. And that's because people would put a fire in whatever room they were going to be in. They would start the fire up and with coal usually, which put a lot of dust up into the air. It was really kind of unhealthy. But, you know, it's really kind of interesting to see the history of a place like that.
And a lot of the smaller cathedrals like St. Paul's will charge you, but the smaller ones, they don't charge you, or it's just a donation if you want to go see the crypt. So there's a lot of really inexpensive fun to be had. Right.
And a very cosmopolitan city. I mean, English was one of many, many languages that you heard spoken as you were walking down the street. The shard and the eye and whatnot. Well, Bradley Taylor, more balloons. Look at the number of balloons there. That's the field of flight. And it looks like they're taking off right a touch before sunrise, or the winds are down just a bit. But look at all those balloons in the air. What do we got there? Probably 2 dozen,
maybe? Count 23.
23. Well, 2 dozen is a pretty good guess.
This could be a vision test.
Yes.
Like 22, 23.
Wow. Yeah, pretty close. Very pretty.
One time I want to go to a balloon festival.
There's one little. It looks like there's one little one way in the distance.
Yeah.
Above one of the telephone poles. I think that's a balloon. Yeah.
And another one.
Looking straight up. Very pretty. I enjoyed my time, and like I said, at almost 75 years old, though I don't think my cardiologist would want me flying in hot air balloons, but yeah, it was fun.
And there's another sunset or sunrise from Benzie County.
You know, it almost looks like a flying saucer with a laser beam coming out, like it's zapping. You know, some creature on the ground or something like that, doesn't it?
Speaking of inexpensive fun, I never remember being bored when I lived in Benzie County.
And
Between the Betsy Valley Trail and I got a season pass to Crystal Mountain, there was something to do every single day, regardless of the season or the weather. There was always something fun going on.
really a nice spot to be. And it's what the fourth lowest population of any county in Michigan, and smallest. Is it smallest county?
Smallest by land.
By land, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, neat.
Yep.
Well, it's an interesting picture. Oh dear.
And I forgot to change the name. This is John Scully. John, my apologies.
Okay, yeah. John does get deer down at his place there. I
Mhm.
saw a deer while I was walking day before yesterday in the cornfield by the athletic field in Alpine Township. Big deer, no antlers, and it was all by itself.
Okay, so one time in college, you guys were down there in the weather bug,
Hmm.
and I was in the back seats, and you guys were dropping me back off after dinner, and you guys sat in the parking lot for a really long time, and you guys were watching deer. And in Hillsdale, and we lived in the woods, we saw deer all the time. This was like, yes, obviously there's deer in the backyard because obviously. And you
Mhm.
guys sat there and watched the deer for 15 minutes. And I finally got in the house and my roommates were waiting for me and they were like, "So what was it?" And I was like, "What do you mean? What was it?" And they were like, "Well, you were getting in some kind of trouble, right?" They were like talking to you in the back seat about something. What were you in trouble for? I was like, "No, they're just watching deer." And my
Yeah.
roommates were like, "Oh, because we've never seen a deer before." And I'm like, "Well, they don't see them as often, but yes."
If
And
I remember right, there was one year when the biggest deer taken during the fall hunting season was in Hillsdale County,
Hmm.
or near the city. So
But
they have a
yes,
lot.
I guess you guys watching a deer made it look like to my roommates like I had done something I was getting in trouble for.
Mom likes deer. She's
Hmm.
always looking for deer,
A
and she
surprising
sees them
number.
too.
So I worked at the Grand Rapids airport for a little bit too, and I worked really late shifts, and sometimes I would get out at 2 or 3 in the morning. A surprising number of deer on my drive home, which was all in town. It was like
Mhm.
a straight shot down 28th Street, and I would still have like deer walking around people's yards a lot.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? You
Mhm.
see them on the side of the road on I-96 sometimes coming from the airport back up to Alpine Township.
Mhm.
You know, it is unusually quiet around here. I'm wondering what trouble the cats are getting into.
They're co-conspirators somewhere.
Yeah, I was going to say I very unusual that they're this quiet.
Hmm.
Interesting. Well, hey, we've come to the end of our presentation. So, on behalf of Michelle, my wife Gail, just think
I
of
found
Gail
you another
Runnings.
summer picture.
Yeah, and was that up in the UP?
I think that's at Aunt Sue's house.
Oh, that could be. That could be. Yeah, neat.
Decorative rocks.
Yep, decorative rocks. That'll do it. All right. Thanks everybody for staying with us here until the end. I hope you have yourself an awesome day.